needs to steer me away. Really.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Overtime. Commander, if you can mute yourself, you got some background coming in.
Sure.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to Overtime. With me right now is Commander McMillan and is Xandering. We are waiting on Operator Starsky. We have heard from him just a few minutes ago. He is trying to connect. He's got some issues. We're going to talk about that in a second. We do not have him. No. So he's trying to connect. So we just heard from him on the Discord. 10 million citizens, which I believe represents about a quarter of them, are out of power. He is out of power. His supporters on YouTube bought him a generator, and so he's been able to generate enough power to be able to connect. The problem is internet, and he does not always have internet. He says he does have it right now, but he has to basically come in on his cell signal, which also cell towers require power, and they are facing an unprecedented power shortage. So he and I are talking on Discord, and he is attempting to come in. So we will see. My hope is that we will have him momentarily. So if you will bear with us, what I figured we would do is start the show, start asking some questions of Commander McMillan about any number of things, and we may end up asking them again of Starsky if and when we get him. But we figured best to probably just go forward right now and then get caught up again if he is able to join us, which we hope he will. But thank you both for coming.
Now I have to turn the sound back on. Thanks for having me.
Only if you want other people to hear you.
I'd like to, talk to myself, because then I'm having a conversation with an equally intelligent person.
There you go. About to say something very similar. But no problems talking to myself. I'm the smartest person I know.
I just like talking to myself because then I don't get any smart-ass remarks back. All right, hold on, I got something. So Starsky is saying that he thinks a local tower is down. It's taking forever for web pages to load. He normally comes in off a web interface. We might be able to get him in on Skype or some other means. So let me just see if he's available. We can go back to the Skype.
Might also consider having him not do a video, just do audio.
So we can do Skype or So I just passed that on to him. So I think he's having a hard time getting web pages to load, and we use a web client to connect because it's the easiest. If you download the Teams app, it's a little better, but anybody can connect to us with a web browser, and that just makes it kind of ubiquitous. So hello everyone, and thank you all for joining us. And we just got an offer for Google Meets. I appreciate that. Right now it appears he can't even get a web page to load. So again, 10 million people. This has been Commander. What's the missile activity been looking like in the last week or so over there?
It's intensified a great deal. As I mentioned last night, I think what's happening is that the Russians have decided that since they can't effectively do anything on the ground, their last-ditch effort to try to compel some sort of negotiated settlement where they get something to save face is to just conduct a terror blitz, kind of like the Germans did during the blitz against London during the Battle of Britain. It's just, shell the place into oblivion and hope that Ukrainian national morale and will are broken by
it. It's being called an escalation. Would you call it that?
No, because they have been firing these things off since the very beginning. It's an escalation in terms of the numbers, but it sounds bizarre to say it. If the numbers of missiles are going up, the amount of artillery fire and everything going on at the front is probably going down. So I suspect if you did a rough calculation, the amount of firepower is roughly equivalent. The only difference is where it's being directed. As opposed to troops at the front, it's directed at civilians in the rear.
A missile that landed in Poland, I want to talk a little bit about that. But before we get into that, one of the things that Russia had said was, well, we weren't firing any missiles in that direction, so it couldn't have been us. There were no targets near there. But there was speculation that there was, in fact, one target in that. Ooh, I think I saw Operator Starsky for a second. No, that was on Discord. Hold on a sec. Wait, we can pull his audio. If he can call into Discord, we can just pull his audio right off the Discord.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think of that. Well, because I've never done it before, so this'll be an interesting. We're gonna give this a shot. Sorry, I'm talking with him, so we'll see if he can just do an audio call with me from Discord. It'll take a minute, and it's we'll have to figure out where I'm going to get how I'm going to put the feed in. It may be that you guys won't be able to hear him. We'll sort it out. So targets in the area. I did hear a theory about a target in the area. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. I did a little research on that, and I don't want to say that our source who told us about this target is wrong, but I can't find anything that validates that supposition. And it's that roughly near the site where the missile, whatever it was, impacted in Poland, on the Ukrainian side of the border is either power generation plant, a coal-fired plant, or perhaps a thermal plant. But regardless, it ties directly into the European power grid from that point. So if you knock that out, it means the Ukrainians can't draw power from Europe through that conduit. And if it is in fact either a coal or a thermal generation plant for power, then it becomes you'll forgive me for saying it this way, but it's true. It's a legitimate military-ish target to take out that kind of infrastructure. So the supposition is that they fired presumably an X-101 air-launched cruise missile at that site, and then the Ukrainians engaged said missile with an S-300 air defense missile of their own, and either it was shot down and went ballistic and crashed inside Poland, or the air defense missile missed the target, which is possible considering that A, the S-300s are an older system, and B, the X-101 cruise missile that the Russians fired is a semi-stealthy cruise missile. So it would be harder for the radar or the S-300 to have locked onto that and gotten a decent hit. So either one or both of those missiles crashed inside Poland. If you look at the site where it is, it's very close to the border. I understand it's about 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers from the border. And on the other side, roughly near it, is that Ukrainian power generation or grid link for the electrical system. So it's easy to see how that might have been a target that they had fired at, and then one or both of those missiles went and missed the target and went into Poland. Does that answer your question?
That does.
And probably in more detail than you wanted.
No, that was good. Oh, and I think we have Starsky here. Hold on a second, please.
Sure.
All right, Operator Starsky, you appear to be in the room. Can you hear us? He is muted.
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
Oh, very good. Good. Welcome. Thank you so much. I know that was a challenge, so we really appreciate the effort, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it seems like our communications tower is down. That's why we're losing the connection from time to time.
Well, yeah, we'll blame that. It has nothing to do with the in-time production values. We've had some audio difficulties on our most recent shows, but I'm gonna blame it on Russia. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been an incredible week over there. There's been a dramatic escalation in the number of missiles they've been firing. Russians have been targeting the power infrastructure. 10 million of your citizens are without power, if I understand correctly. I think that represents about a quarter of the total population. What's going on over there?
Well, yes, pretty much. In most cases, we have quite long blackouts all over Ukraine, in bigger cities, in smaller towns as well, and traffic lights in most cases are off. And so yeah, the situation is kind of tough for civilians because they don't have opportunity to charge their phones, or fridges and stuff. The food gets spoiled and things like that. But anyways, the biggest concern for me was that the business is gonna suffer from that very much. But until we have cash, I think everything will be fine.
I have 2 or 3 thoughts, though. So first of all, how are hospitals holding up? Because they need power, and hospitals are more important now than probably ever in Ukraine. Also, if you're elderly in a second, third, 15th, 30th floor of a apartment complex, and the elevators are out, what do you do? And what's going on now that it's getting colder?
Indeed, it's getting colder. Today we are going to have a snowfall in my area, in Kyiv and Hostomel. As for hospitals, from what I know, they are supplied with electricity 24/7. Strategic objects are supplied as well. As for elder people living on higher floors, it's a very tough question. Hopefully they have relatives that can help them. I know that within condominiums, local people help each other as much as they can. There's today I was visiting my relatives here in Kyiv, and there's numerous announcements, like stickers. One of them was saying, looking for volunteers for creating the mask nets for vehicles. This thing is very, very popular nowadays in Ukraine. People are making nets to send to our soldiers, so they could mask their vehicles and their positions and stuff. So we are, even despite those difficulties, we are still united, and I don't think that it's gonna change anything, unless I will have less streams.
So I do want to bring up at some point the hit in Poland that happened. We were just talking about that, but I also want to find out, is there anything else that's been going on in the last week? We know, so the dramatic escalation in missile attacks. There was obviously the big news about the 2 people killed in Poland when there was collateral damage there. Anything else that we should know about before we get into some of the details there?
From what we know, another escalation is expected in the area of Bakhmut, where my brigade is deployed at this moment. And we know that Russians are trying to relocate their troops that fled from Kherson area closer to Bakhmut, because they want to develop their attack there as much as it's possible. Which again makes southern part of occupied Ukraine much more, I would say, vulnerable for Ukrainian counteroffensive. So this is how it looks like at this point. My guys in Bakhmut say that there are numerous attacks every day that are deflected, but they continue attacking using those Wagnerites as basically cannon fodder, trying to discover our firing positions all the time. And the guy who destroyed first helicopters over Hostomel in the beginning of this invasion, a couple of days ago, he shot down Russian Su-25 over Bakhmut. I know this guy, and he's a pro, basically. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So, well, first of all, this was interesting. This we got just, I think, an hour and a half ago. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I can't find it. But what we have, I think it was Swedish. The Swedish government was saying that, and I want you to brace yourself. This is shocking news. I know, Starsky, you did not anticipate this, but they're saying residue from explosives has been found near the damage to the Nord Stream pipeline. I think I speak for all. Yeah, it's wow. I appreciate the news update. Thanks for that. I don't know, Commander. Any chance that they could tell by that who set it off? I mean, do the Russians do explosives or use different explosives in the U.S.?
Potentially, you could at least isolate it to, it was manufactured in Russia or some other former Soviet Union / Warsaw Pact bloc nation. They tended to use kind of all the same explosive mixes, which are not typically used in the West. Different chemical composition, same type of explosive though. So if you wanted to go into a great deal of effort to hunt that down, you might be able to say, oh yeah, this was possibly manufactured, in Russia or possibly Hungary or the former Czech Republic or something. I don't know how much good that does to do that, because if you're doing a covert op like blowing up an underwater pipeline, you kind of think that through and get hold of explosives manufactured in a country other than your own, so you could dutifully point the accusatory finger at the other side.
That makes sense. By the way, I wanted to point out, so we have Dick Dawson in the live chat, and I did catch that, Dick, where you said earlier, #NixFull. I saw that, and I think, Starsky, tomorrow when you're on the shills, you're going to be on your own.
Oh my God.
I told my mods to deal with the troll, and they're like, nah, we like him. I was like, son of a... all right. I see how things work around here. All right, good to see you, and thank you all for joining us. I appreciate everyone who's come down, and we're thank you. I've been watching the live chat, been doing like 16 things at once, but I've been keeping up with the live chat, and I appreciate all the thanks and support. We did just get a super chat. I will get to that in a second. I did want to talk about the what happened. So this was a deal. It was reported initially that 2 Russian rockets landed in Poland. The consensus from everybody on social media, which is a bastion of reason and level-headedness, was that this was a deliberate attack from Russia. We addressed that very, very quickly. And it has come out that it appears to have been at least partly involved in air defense missile system. The foreign minister of Ukraine has come out and said, quote, Ukrainian experts are already working at the site of the tragedy caused by Russian missile terror against Ukraine. I am grateful to the Polish side for granting them access. We will continue in our cooperation we will continue our cooperation in an open and constructive manner as closest friends do. Starsky, what can you tell us? What's the latest on that?
What can I say? Well, we are expecting the results of the investigation because, of course, we want to know the details, exactly what happened. But again, we have evidence that those were Russian missiles. There are, I'm not sure if they count as evidence, but there are rumors that Pshevodov and Kiev are located at the same latitude. So basically, it could be a mistake. We know that early...
The misentered coordinates, if you're using lat long.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. And we know that there was a similar case in Croatia when I think it was in March, probably when some unknown aircraft crashed in Zagreb in the area called 𝐒𝐢𝐦𝐞. And the fact is there's another 𝐒𝐢𝐦𝐞 located in Ukraine. And if it was Tu-141, I think, jet UAV, old Soviet jet UAV, it had a range of 1,000 kilometers, and that's exactly the range from the launch site in Belarus to Croatia and 𝐒𝐢𝐦𝐞. So there are such cases. Of course, Russians make mistakes like that from time to time, and we could expect that to happen. So in the beginning, we had reports from anonymous sources in the U.S. intelligence that there were 2 Russian missiles. But because those were anonymous sources, I'm not sure if we can trust them much. So I think that we need to wait for the end of this investigation.
All right. So I have at least one other question I have 2 questions I'd like to ask. So let me ask one of them now, and then I'm going to pass this on to Commander McMillan, see if there's anything else that he wanted to discuss. There was talk briefly that NATO was going to enter because of Article 5 and a deliberate attack on Poland. There was never any evidence it was a deliberate attack. There still isn't any. And the consensus from NATO is that this is not even close to Article 5. If it had been, NATO would enter, and presumably, and my suspicion is initially this would be very helpful to Ukraine. They would get a lot of support. However, it would also represent a potential, I would assume, for a dramatic escalation by Russia. Obviously, they've said, if NATO enters, they're going to dramatically escalate the war. And right now, we know that NATO has said if Russia were to deploy tactical nukes in Ukraine, NATO would enter. We know that that's been said. That's been reported. We know that. That's confirmed. My suspicion is it's also been said of chemical weapons. It looked at one point like It looked at one point as if they were preparing to use chemical weapons. They were finding the antidote to chemical weapons found on Russian troops. There was every indication they were going to do it, and then they stopped. And my suspicion is NATO said, that's a red line, we'll enter if you do that. So right now, it looks like, and my hope is that that's at least been keeping them at bay with some of these weapons. If NATO enters, all of a sudden, those are now on the table, and things could escalate dramatically. So my question to you is this. With the possibility of NATO entering at least suddenly being on the forefront of everybody's mind quite recently, do you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing? And what are your thoughts on that?
Asking me?
No, I'm sorry. I was asking Starsky, and that's a tough. By the way, that's an immensely tough question because it's extremely nuanced. But yeah, that's not an easy question. And I was planning on telling you ahead of time that I was going to ask that question, but we weren't able to get a hold of you, so I apologize. That's not an easy question. So, but if it's something you think you could take a stab at, operator, I was curious as to your views of the potential of NATO entering.
I think that one thing that Russia is afraid of is basically fighting against NATO troops. That's why they will try to avoid it at any cost. And in case NATO troops enter Ukraine, I think that it's gonna end the war very, very fast, because I don't think that Russians would allow themselves to strike, NATO troops with their missiles, kill NATO soldiers, because NATO will retaliate, and Russia has absolutely no defense against, the weapons that NATO troops have, including long-range cruise missiles, high-precision weapons, better artillery, better everything, basically. I think they will not do that, and I think that it's something that can effectively bring the war to its end very, very fast.
I wanted to add something to that. I don't even think it takes full NATO intervention. All it takes is NATO committing air power over Ukraine and saying it's essentially a no-fly zone. NATO air power alone would be sufficient to completely turn the war around. You don't even need to commit ground troops. You don't need NATO, moving into Russia proper to do it. Just air power would dramatically change things. And I think
yes, I agree on that. Absolutely. That's, by the way, the thing that President Zelensky was asking for in the beginning of this invasion, because this could give us a lot of advantage over Russian troops. Even without deploying ground troops, that would end the war very, very fast, I think.
Yeah, I mean, not to disparage the excellent work the Ukrainian Air Force has done, but even that small group of personnel and aircraft have been able to effectively deny air superiority, let alone air Russian Air Force. As you can imagine, if you bring in NATO with much more advanced aircraft and pretty much almost unlimited numbers of them, it totally changes things. And not only will the Russian Air Force cease to exist, but ground support, if it's going to be committed, would pretty much render every Russian missile battery and artillery formation and ammo dumps and headquarters and you name it, anything in the rear area is going to get flattened. It would be all over in a week.
Well, so given that, and this is to either of you, why has NATO been so hesitant to enter?
Because I think that the fear is if NATO gets involved, then the the Russians escalate. Yeah, I'm falling back on my old training. I'm sorry. 25 years of bad Soviets. So, the Russians would be almost forced to escalate. And at this point, the only level of escalation is going WMD. And
Yeah, that's kind of my.
I don't think anybody wants to see that happen.
Yeah, that was kind of my looking at it. My thought on it too is it's like if NATO were to get involved, Russia loses. After looking at everything that's gone on over this almost past year, it's pretty clear that the war would be incredibly short, and Russia would absolutely lose. There is no way that they would stand up to NATO forces. I mean, they're better armed. They have a lot more arms. They apparently have quite a lot more training, and it would just overwhelm Russia. They would lose almost immediately. It wouldn't even take all that long. The question is whether Russia is going to make everybody lose, because Russia's losing anyway, but they do have the ability, ostensibly. I'm questioning that a little bit with how badly their equipment has been performing, that it's been maintained, but ostensibly they also have the ability to make everybody lose. And I think that's probably the hesitation there. I mean, if you're already going to lose everything, well, you might as well take everybody with you.
Yeah, you're in a Gotterdammerung situation.
Sort of Damocles.
Yeah. If I can't win, I'm going to tear the world down with me.
Okay, we have 2 super chats from Sam Williams, 20 New Zealand. Ukraine fights for us all. Russia will lose. UA, thank you, Sam. We really appreciate the super chat. All of these are going to be going to charity. We have the charity is listed in the description, so we will be sending all of your super chats along to that. Thank you very much for that. $20. AK Croat 74. Slava Ukraine. Heroyam Slava. Glad you're okay, bro. Again, thank you very much for the super chat. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it. We appreciate liking, subscribing, and passing the stream along if you're enjoying it. We really appreciate that. Commander, any questions that you had while we have Operator Starsky here?
Yeah. I'm wondering what you see as a viable end game strategy here. I know that Zelensky has said, and I totally support the idea of the Russians must leave all Ukrainian territory, including Crimea, return all the people they've basically deported from those occupied areas, pay reparations. That I totally support. However, that doesn't end the war if you push all the Russians out of Ukrainian territory, because as we're seeing right now, they can simply stay inside their own borders and continue lobbing missiles at you. Something has to be done to compel them to agree to end the war. And I'm not really sure what that could be. What do you see as a viable way to terminate this conflict?
One of the things that can help end this war is revolution in Russia. They have to remove their current government and their current president. They have to change. But it's a very, very long process because, again, they were raised like this, and it took them generations to create this breed of Russians that we see today. Those are completely brainwashed people that live in poverty but still think they are, like God's chosen nation. And it's gonna take quite a while to teach them to, be democratic and free, basically like Ukrainians. It's gonna take years and years. So I don't think that it's possible anytime soon, unfortunately. But this could bring an end to this war as well. Another thing was stated today, I think, by Polish representative, but I might be wrong. It's that because Russia can still produce weapons like long-range weapons like cruise missiles, Ukraine, together with the rest of the world, should do everything to destroy their ability to do that. Meaning sanctions, meaning complete isolation, and that could help as well. Of course, we need to improve our anti-air defense, build something like Iron Dome, but over the whole territory of Ukraine, to make sure that Russians will not be able to use their aviation and missiles efficiently. And we should also develop measures to react very fast to the damage that they inflict to our infrastructure, because if we are able to quickly repair our power grid, for example, their attacks will be very, very, they will have very, very low efficiency. So maybe that, besides of pushing Russian forces out of Ukraine, out of Donbass and Crimea, of course.
Yeah. Do you think the chance of I'll use the term spontaneous revolution inside Russia is a good one, or do you think it's likely to be more something in the lines of an internal coup to replace Putin with somebody else? And if that's the case, what are the chances that the person who replaces Putin would actually be even more extreme hardliner slant ultranationalist who would decide to go in with nuclear weapons or other WMD?
So, judging from the history of Russia, all such coups usually happened not with the help of masses, but usually they were performed by their elites with those protests as a background, This may happen, of course, but I don't really believe in that. And you made a very nice commentary about a new possible leader of Russia, because, again, their opposition is not interested in supporting Ukraine. They are interested in criticizing Putin and removing Putin and stuff, but they are not interested in supporting Ukraine, because let's face it, they will have to pay reparations, and they know it. And every Russian potential leader of new Russia, yes, they will do everything to avoid it, everything, because they know that their economics rolled back probably 30 years.
Yeah.
And their economics is pretty much ruined, and those reparations, they will not be bearable for Russian state.
So you're saying they would be kind of in a situation like Germany was after World War I, with the Weimar Republic just being drawn further and further into a financial abyss, trying to meet their reparations payment requirements.
Yes, that's what I mean. And I think today one of the Russian oppositioners said that basically if this happens, and this I support, by the way, Russia will give control over its oil sources to Ukraine. Oil and gas sources located on the territory of Russia, they will be given to Ukraine, so Ukraine could control and receive revenue from those sources, which might be one of the ways. But again, oil and gas, it's probably the not like the only, but the biggest sources of income for Putin, not for the Russian state, but for Putin basically. And in case they lose it, they're doomed. They don't produce enough food, to feed all the world. They don't produce, even despite the fact that Russia is so big. But again, majority of their territory is not processed in terms of resources, in terms of mining and stuff. So yeah, they will be screwed big time. And I think that we should not rely on their potential leaders, because they will do everything they can in order to avoid paying reparations, in order to accept that Russia did a lot of bad things. So that's just my opinion, but from what I see right now, including that 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐴𝐷, that very, very popular Russian blogger and politician, a lot of people like his videos, but again, he's not a supporter of Ukraine. He's a big, let's say, enemy of Putin, but he's not a supporter of Ukraine. So yes, unfortunately, at some point we can probably see that whoever changes Putin, it will be like anybody will be better than Putin, except for Kadyrov, of course. But in order to put them on the right track, right, in terms of democracy and all the values that are valuable to us, is gonna take maybe decades, maybe.
I agree. Anything else, Nick?
I had one final sort of set of questions. But if let's just see, I don't know if Andrew had anything else you wanted to add, and then I wanted to take it in a slightly new direction, but a few questions that I've been thinking about, and I wanted to hear from Operator Starsky on. So, but Andrew, was there anything you wanted to add or ask before I do that?
I've got one thing I'd like to ask, and it was touched on a little bit earlier. Commander brought it up. I guess my simplest question, prefaced with having a destabilized Russia in the area at the end of this war, I don't think is particularly beneficial to the entire area. Would it be possible that if Russia said, "All right, we're going to cease hostilities, we're going to remove our troops and leave you alone," under the condition that we're not charged with any reparations? In other words, we'll just go our own way, stop all hostilities. Is that something that Ukraine would be willing to agree to?
And let me interrupt.
We have a very good.
I assume you mean also returning Crimea, so return everything, including Crimea, but on the condition that no reparations. Okay, perfect. I wanted to clarify that. Okay, yes, please. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. Return all Ukrainian territories. Cease hostilities. Leave Ukraine completely alone, under the condition that you will not charge. Sanctions will be lifted and no reparations will be charged. I mean, we have seen the concern I have is we've seen very good examples of what happens when countries are put under crippling reparations. And we don't want to have a repeat of Weimar Germany in Russia. So we want to be able, I see just this personal, of course, it's very easy to say sitting, thousands of miles away from where all this is going on, and our sense of, justice for, wait a minute, they started this, they caused all this pain, damage, death, and destruction. And, you're suggesting essentially letting them off with, don't do this again and stop attacking us. But I don't want to see Russia completely collapse either. I don't see that as being a particularly productive for the area in the long term. So is it something that Ukraine would possibly consider, allowing Russia to simply cease hostilities, return the land, and not get punitive reparations against them?
I think the answer would be yes, they can return us Donbass and Crimea, but they cannot return us the most valuable thing, which is lives of people that they murdered. And that's the point. Not only they brought a lot of destruction to Ukraine, but also they murdered a lot of Ukrainian people, Ukrainian soldiers, civilians, children, and of course they have to pay for that. There's no other option, because if they go unpunished, then every single maniac in this world will be convinced that he can just, attack other country and kill plenty of people and just, finish the war, say, okay, I'm not gonna attack you anymore, and, they have to be punished. Criminals have to be punished, because otherwise it is gonna be, signal to every single criminal in this world that you can just do whatever the hell you want to do and go without punishment.
Yeah, there have to be repercussions, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Or consequences. All right. Is there anything else? It's a good question.
No, I just.
All right. So, we have a link to Operator Starsky's channel in the description. I'm going to be honest. I'm half compelled to always say, go check them out and all this other stuff. But his channel is really good, and he's got a lot of very humorous skits he does. But you get to see the people that he works with. You get to see what's going on. It's an extraordinarily good channel. There's a reason it's got over 170,000 last I looked subs. It's good. So I hope you guys will check it out. It's right in the description. But I've seen you on your channel talking about your brigade. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit outside of just what's happening, all the political stuff in Russia, and talk just a little bit about you, your brigade, your relationship to them, and your work. So could you tell us a little bit about your brigade?
Yes, so currently we are operating the area of Bakhmut. So the path of my brigade began in frames of this invasion. We faced enemy in two different locations at the same time. When this invasion started, we were deployed on the east in the area of 𝐒𝐚𝐦𝐿, and that was majority of our troops, and small minority was located in Hostomel, defending the airport and the base. And it was like a tiny fraction of our brigade, consisting mostly of conscripts, because according to our legislation, we don't bring conscripts to the front lines unless they sign contracts and train and become professional soldiers like everybody, like majority of our brigade. And after that, basically our battalion tactical group that was located in the area of Stanica Luhanska, they faced Russian invasion there. They moved to 𝐒𝐬𝐬𝐚𝐬 and 𝐬𝐤𝐜𝐻, and those 4 months that they've spent there, they were crazy. So we have information that in 4 months, according to reports of our platoon commanders, company commanders, Russian troops lost 1,000 men dead in contact combat, in street combat, and the number of their dead as a result of our artillery strikes is even bigger. But of course, they couldn't hold those towns for a while. They couldn't defend them effectively because there were 10 Russian soldiers versus 1 Ukrainian soldier in the area. They had multiple battalion tactical groups operating there, including Kadyrovites, including those Wagnerites. And as for artillery, there was 15-1 howitzers, sometimes 17-1. 17 Russian howitzers versus 1 Ukrainian. So it was very hard, and we understood that we couldn't defend 𝐒𝐤𝐻𝐻, then Severodonetsk. That's why we decided to move back slowly, inflicting as much casualties to Russian troops as possible. And basically, it was done very efficiently because the whole 2021 we've spent training together with our colleagues from the armed forces of Ukraine, together with our colleagues from armed forces of Canada, and other NATO members, specifically in terms of urban combat. So we were training since spring 2021 and until late fall 2021 in frames of urban combat, which helped us big time. And currently, we see that our guys are operating pretty much successfully in Bakhmut, even despite the fact that Bakhmut is being constantly shelled and hit by missiles and Russian aviation. We are losing guys, of course. This Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I was attending numerous funerals. But still, those their defensive operations are highly efficient because even despite the fact that Russians are using so much troops in that area, they're still unable to capture Bakhmut. So those are my guys, and I'm proud of them so much.
Now, you've been on the front lines. In fact, you were in live combat situations before the war and on the front lines and engaging, and had a significant number of enemy kills yourself before this war started. Is that correct?
Yes, I was enlisted in the end of 2014, and until 2018, I was an NCO in my brigade in the infantry battalion. So yes, my guys, my platoon, basically, we have a lot of confirmed kills during our operations, specifically at the area of Svetlodarsk Bulge. It was one of the most dangerous spans of the front lines back then, 2017, 2018, until 2020, I would say.
So the reason I'm asking all of this is because Ukraine has done the most incredible job I've ever seen, certainly in modern times, of fighting propaganda. And it was one of the things that helped Ukraine be able to repel this was slowing down Putin's even attempt to invade. He repeatedly made false flags. Ukraine almost instantly corrected the information and would have cameras sitting there going like, nope, he's lying. Here are the facts. Here we are. We're all here. And that slowed them down by weeks at least into the invasion, maybe months. And since then, correcting Russian propaganda, which we all know is that's all they do. We've discussed this repeatedly. I don't know that even the average Russian citizen can speak without propaganda basically coming from everything they say. It's a cultural thing. We've talked about it. But it's combating that has been critical to receiving funding and to receiving help from other countries, without which Ukraine could easily fall. So the work that you're doing here to help us understand, help our audience understand, help others understand is incalculable in terms of how valuable it is. But on the flip side, I have to believe that there's a part of you that realizes you're not with your brigade who are on the front line. Ukraine needs competent people doing what you're doing. But I have to believe there's a tension there and that that's not easy for you. So I wanted to ask you about that, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. I don't feel big, like internal tension regarding this because, again, in case Russia decides to perform another attack on Kyiv or on Chernihiv from the territory of Belarus, we will be there. Currently, we can say that we are reserves, basically. And we will be there, so our guys are operating on the east, and we are operating here on the northern Ukraine. So yeah, in case this happens, probably I will have more combat footage, of course, like I did in 2019, 2020. We will see. We will see. But again, soldiers should be prepared at all times. And, our internal tensions should not, let's say, our commanders should not consider our internal tensions because we are militaries, we follow orders. On the front lines, it's not like you can ask your commander, I want to go to the most dangerous span of the front lines and kill enemies. Also, you cannot ask your commander not to go to the front lines if you're told to do so. You cannot say, can you please send me, far away to the third line,
Can I be the one doing the Starbucks run?
Yeah. You're doing what you're told to do, and I'm the same. I'm a military, just like my guys.
All right. Any final questions, Commander or 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐿?
I had one, and that little brain cell died, so I have to try to recover it.
We'll have him back next week, and if I hope it's all right with you, operator. If you have more of that footage, if we air it here, we've been following. We've aired a couple of your clips. I'm sure YouTube has notified you. Content infringement in time is airing your shorts. It's like, yeah. But
I'm glad you like it. Yeah.
Oh, I know what my question was. Why Bakhmut?
Why Bakhmut?
Yeah, what makes it such an obsessively important place for the Russians that they keep throwing troops against it and just burning casualties in this obviously futile attempt to take the place? Why has Bakhmut become the symbol of what Russia needs to be successful? It makes no tactical or operational sense to me.
Probably it's because Putin is convinced that he cannot lose. Probably it's because he still dreams of taking Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, because taking Bakhmut basically opens a road to Sloviansk, as well as Kramatorsk, and then farther to the Izium, and yeah. So I think he's still convinced that he can do that. Um, Currently, numerous
You think
military.
that 6 months of battering your head against the wall would teach you it wasn't going to work?
Yeah. Currently, numerous military experts say that there's literally no chance for Russia to win this war. Uh, but again, a lot of those experts were saying that Ukraine is gonna give up in 3 days. So let's be realistic, and yeah, I also believe that Russia is not gonna win, of course, because uh, if
Yeah,
I
but
was convinced
it's
that
war
Russia.
and things change overnight.
Yes, yes. The situation is very dynamic, and if I was convinced that Russia will win this war, that there would be no sense in fighting at all. So, basically, the answer is that Bakhmut is strategically important because it's a road to Sloviansk, and Sloviansk is again one of the let's say sacred places for
Okay.
Russian world, because a lot of things started in Sloviansk. Um, in the times of in the beginning of this war, 2014, in Sloviansk, Russians made an ambush on Ukrainian special forces, and they lost something like 40 men dead as a result of this ambush, and Ukrainian special forces lost 2 men.
Mhm.
So this ambush, even despite the fact that ambushes are in 99% of the times they are very very deadly for the ambushed, but this was a big fail for them, and they still remember that. So they want Sloviansk, they want Kramatorsk, they want to regain access to Izium, and further to Kharkiv. So probably that's the goal of Putin.
Okay. That makes
And
sense.
And we have a $20 super chat once again from AK Croat 74. Starsky, can you please update us on how Operation Bulking Guardsman is doing? So I think we're gonna need a primer on what
Context.
Yeah, I think we need context on that one, and then the update, please, sir.
So my buddy Bogdan, who returned from the Russian captivity, he spent 7 months in Russian prison. He lost probably like 20 kilograms in 7 months. And a lot of people, after I told his story, a lot of people decided to support him. And they sent him some donations. So he bought like 2 kilograms of proteins and stuff. And he decided to return back his shape because he was a recon and a pretty tough one. He was a platoon sergeant, platoon sergeant of a recon platoon. So he was a tough guy, yeah, before this captivity. And of course, I decided to support him morally. So I also bought like a big jar of gainer and 4 kilograms of protein. So we started pumping up like crazy. And hopefully we will see some results, maybe anytime soon, in a couple of months.
Well, we're going to have to put that into the rundown. We're going to have to ask you for an update on that every time you come in now. So just be prepared. We're gonna ask you about that next week.
I will be sending pictures.
All right. Please do. All right. Well, operator, once again, thank you for coming, and that was a challenge, and you got here, so we really sincerely appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
And I take it you're going to be all, technology permitting, you're going to be doing the shills tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Is that right?
Yes. So I think if I receive my 4G router tomorrow, and if it has better connection than my phone, I gotta check that. So we will see. At least in this situation that I have now, I can have like a voice chat, which is great. like in a good old times on Shield in April, for example.
Excuse me. Are you getting video out of curiosity, or are you just getting audio back?
Sorry?
I was curious if it was like a full voice chat, or if you were actually getting video back so you could at least see me.
No, I can see you, but like our connection is almost dead. It's
Okay.
like 10% from what we have.
Okay, I may have when Xandring was talking been a little unprofessional and made some smarmy faces, and I was just curious if you saw that, because I didn't want to. But all right. So, well, thank you all for joining us. I did want to ask if there was anything else that we missed that you wanted to make sure that we talked about, operator.
No, I don't think so.
All right. So you're going to be on the shills tomorrow. We're going to see you again same time next week. Thank you for joining us. Commander McMillan, thank you once again. You've been on a lot. We really appreciate your help. Your wealth of knowledge has been immensely helpful during a great many things going on in the last couple of weeks. So thank you for joining us. Xandring, thank you as well for joining us. So we had a marvelous show yesterday. It was the Psychology of Politics with Professor Mowdy and Brooks, and we're going to be, I think, doing that again as a weekly thing. So we're going to do that. We're going to have Commander McMillan back again next week, Operator Starsky again next week. So there's a lot to look forward to. Please like and subscribe. It helps out the channel, and that way you can know when we cover breaking news, which we do. There's been a lot of, and we're anticipating more. Or join us on the Discord, where you can find everything that we do. McMillan is on the Discord a lot, answering questions. He's been really good about that. And you will also find usually cutting edge news and what's going on there. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a delightful weekend, folks. Thanks for coming.